So we have got some massive quarterfinal matchups coming up for the Sydney Sevens, including this one, Samoa versus New Zealand. Now, you may see next to me, New Zealand versus South Africa. The reason I've got that up there is because whoever won that game, they were going to be facing Ireland, and the side that lost it did have the tough task of having to take on the Samoans, and it's going to be New Zealand, a rematch of the Cape Town Sevens final in which Samoa were victorious. But during this preview, we will be looking at previous fixtures, key players for the sides, and then at the end, we will be giving our prediction for New Zealand versus Samoa. So first of all, we will look through at Samoa's previous fixtures. They were a part of Pool C alongside Spain, Ireland, and the USA, and they started extremely well on the first day. They got themselves the victory over Ireland, 17 points to 12, and that was a very important game, not just for the confidence of Samoa. They did finish 9th in Hamilton, so always looking to improve after that leg. But getting the win over Ireland set them up brilliantly for the rest of Pool C. Their next game was up against the USA, in which they did win at 26 points to 7, and that was actually a pretty comfortable game for Samoa. They were having a majority of the possession, which is something that's going to be key in their upcoming game up against New Zealand. If they do allow New Zealand to run that ball often and they don't get into the breakdown, get those turnovers, Samoa could find themselves in a little bit of trouble. But if they can do what they did up against the USA, I believe the USA, they only touched the ball like once in that first half. It was absolutely incredible work from the Samoans, and they'll be looking to replicate that in this quarterfinal. Their last game was up against Spain. The end score 35 points to 15, a little bit closer than the Samoans would have liked after getting such a great start in that match. But every once in a while, when Spain got that ball out wide, it seemed like Samoa just kept on conceding slightly softer tries than they would have liked. But with the quarterfinal around the corner, they've got a few hours to try and work out what was going wrong there, and perhaps that is because they're adding a few more men to the breakdown, which does make sense of why there would be space out wide. But looking through at New Zealand's previous fixtures, they did have their first match up against Uruguay. They won at 45 points to 7. So quite a comfortable win for the Kiwis to start off in Sydney. Then their next game was up against Kenya, in which they did win at 33-0. So actually only conceding one try throughout their first 2 matches, New Zealand. And then they had their last match. It was a slugfest between New Zealand and South Africa, going tit for tat throughout that matchup. New Zealand scored, then South Africa would get one, then New Zealand, then South Africa. We saw a couple yellow cards for South Africa in it as well. But in the end, it was a 3-point penalty that the South Africans did get at the end of the contest, put them in the lead, winning at 17 points to 14. And like I mentioned, they will be going on to face Ireland in their quarterfinal fixture. Looking through at key players now, Samoa, they've had a lot of players step up throughout recent games. Va'apilo Maliko, they didn't actually have him in the starting lineup up against Spain, and I believe the reason behind that is because they were saving him for this match, and they know how important he will be. So he's my first Samoan player that I will say as a key. Then the next player, I'm going to go Milani Matavao. He actually got his first start in quite some time in that game up against Spain, and while he was out there, we talked earlier on about Samoa's kicking accuracy when it came to getting those conversions. 5 from 5 he was able to get. So if he's not in the starting lineup, I think Samoa may leave a couple points out there that they would have been able to get if Matavao had started. And then my last key player, I'm going to go with him again. I've said him a few times throughout my previews, but Tuna Tuitama scored 2 tries up against the USA, had a couple biggish hits up against the Spanish, but always a physical presence out there on the field for Samoa. So here's my third key player for the Samoans. Looking through at New Zealand, the key players for them, Sam Dixon's got to be one. The captain, always looking to put in the big hits when it does matter. So him versus Tuna Tuitama, I feel like, I don't think we're going to see punches thrown, but we might see a little bit of a scuffle between those two. In fact, maybe Leroy Carter also might get involved in the scuffle. He seems to like a little bit of that scrappiness. So we might see something going on, depending on how close the game is between these two Pacific sides. Next key player for New Zealand, Akulia Rokalisoa. We didn't see him a huge amount throughout the South African game, but with that extra pace, if he is able to get out wide and do a little bit of what Spain did to the Samoans, I think Rokalisoa, they're not going to be able to catch him. They've got some fast players, Samoa. Rokalisoa, he's lightning quick when he starts getting those legs pumping. He could get himself a try in this quarterfinal. And then the last New Zealand player, I have to think about this a little bit. I've got a few names running through my head, but I think I'm going to go Dylan Collier. The big man out on the wing, a lot of experience. And that is something that New Zealand will have an advantage in over the Samoans. A little bit more experience out there on the park. Joe Weber played well up against South Africa, so he's got that experience factor as well. But to be honest, you could probably list a majority of both sides when it comes to who you want to have as a possible key player. Everyone's important. Everyone's excited for this matchup, and it's not too far away. So the game, it will be starting at 9:37 p.m. New Zealand time. Should be an absolutely awesome one, and we will be doing the commentary on the channel, so be sure to check that out. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.